Hello, everyone. My name is Georgette Truan. I am the host of Real Talk with Miss G and the Gang, and I also work for the law office of Vincent Davis. We have a new member of the family today. His name is Marcos Espinoza. Hi, Marcos.
Hi
Welcome to the
guys.
family, sweetheart. I spoke to Marcos not that long ago, and he very good guy, very good people, and he also is fighting a big fight, and he doesn't deserve to go through this. Also, we have Deidre Payne. Most of you guys know her as Miss Payne on my page with Mr. Davis. She's always commenting. Now she's now, she's now with me on the show, and she has her own show as well. And
Wow.
she's going to be with me tonight with Attorney Davis as well. So welcome, Deidre.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
of course, most of you guys know Auntie Barb and Dr. Fowler, beautiful people as well, and Darren Guai, my brother from another mother, another father.
Mm. This is a peanut gallery over here.
Yep. I'm
So
in the right family then.
yeah. So so we have a couple of discussion today about CPS. First of all, we're going to discuss about social media interactions when you have a CPS case. Darren and I came across a couple of social media, well, several social media pages that tells you that they're for you guys and they're want you guys to include them in the fight with CPS, etc. Those people are social workers. What they do, um, they pretend to be something they're not, to get you guys to disclose your case, to get you guys to say, hey, I'm a victim of CPS. My social worker is name is, my county is, et cetera, et cetera. Then they take that information and they share it with your social worker. Then all of a sudden your social worker comes to you and says, hey, you need to bring your page down. So that's how they know what you do on social media. And you guys think anything that says, fight CPS or blah 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 blah, all this, that is for you guys. It's not for you guys. It's
Mhm.
actually against you guys. And Marcos
Yeah,
agrees with me. I think Marcos knows what I'm talking about.
I
Uh,
do actually. I've actually experienced the very first time my daughter got taken away. I actually spoke to somebody, and I felt like it was just BS. Like they were just trying to get information out of me, who I'm with, where I'm working at, what I'm doing every single day, like with my friends, what
Mm.
events I go out to, or when I stay home. And nowadays, social media, I don't post nothing, nothing,
See, yeah. So they're
because of that.
tricking you guys. They're not for you. And anyone that tells you I helped get case, I help. If you see like a message on social media that says, "Oh, thank you so and so for helping me get my kids back," this person is not an attorney. What they're doing is they're having their friends
Mm-hmm.
make, people can make anything fake nowadays.
Yeah.
Anything.
Oh
They can
yeah, even
make
with the
your voice
AI stuff coming
nowadays
out
and
now,
they
it's
can
crazy. You'd be talking to a robot. You don't even know it.
exactly. So you can be talking to something thinking that you're speaking to Miss G, for example, and it's not even me, it's someone else. But they're
Yep.
mimicking your voice, they're mimicking everything. Everything is done now. Everything is accessible now. So they can
Mm-hmm.
easily post like a, what do you call it, a contract, or like, like they got their kids back. But it's not true. It's fake. It's fake. So that person can easily tell you that, hey, I got my kids back. I can help you get your kids back. But that person never got her kid back. That's
Right.
what they want you to know, to deceive you. And then other friends of that person would post things like, oh, Miss So and so, I put money in your Cash App to help you out.
You remember when I was involved with that one rally? Remember that I put the stop to it because the people that were actually um, working for the rally were actually people that weren't telling the truth about their stories. They were saying that, they were actually, what it would be the word, embezzling money. They embezzle and they take the money, they're not giving it to the what they're supposed to be using it for.
Fraud.
Like you're supposed to be helping them, and they're next thing you know, you find out they're buying a joint or some crack or whatever else is on the daily menu. And here you are, you've just given your last dime to these people that you think are in the same situation. So you think that they're going to give you and represent you that way. um,
Mm-hmm.
it's tough. You can't, you just can't believe anybody anymore. You got to take everything at face value. And if that, because now, like Miss G said, face value isn't even really face value because it might not even buy. I mean, this
I
is
have a question about that. Meaning, I've heard a couple of stories about parents like posting a GoFundMe page for themselves to try and raise money to maybe hire private counsel. Is that not allowed?
no, it is, but you just got to pick and choose your battles. Like do your research. Because unfortunately, there are good parents and people trying to, like Georgette, when I first got in my situation when I was trying to get with Mr. Davis, she was like, hey, Darren, get a GoFundMe page or something and try to raise some money or whatever. It was a sincere and real situation. But you know what? So many people have corrupted those things that it's almost a waste of your time now. You almost look to be a fool, I think, if you do that
No,
stuff.
but like if your
Because
social worker found out that you posted a GoFundMe page, would you like get in trouble for that or
I'm
no?
sure that they would give some sort of a repercussion knowing that you're trying to break their norm. I mean, they
Yeah.
came after me. The basis of our TPR hearings was my fucking podcast.
Yeah, I remember.
Because I
Yeah.
was talking about, all I did was talk about our case and, the events with my daughter and things like that. Lester Brown, quotes from Lester Brown is what they used in the TPR hearing to say that we weren't supposed to be parents. Like, I wish I could get a hold of Les Brown and be like, Les, because I say it's not over till I win. They said that was a harassing and threatening, threatening quote. So because I said it's not over until I win, like Les Brown.
Okay, Darren.
And that was it. So they said that's why you're being TPR'd.
Hey,
Because you're using these threatening things.
Darren.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to talk about you mean you can talk, but you can't mention any names. And you were mentioning names.
Who?
That's why. Because
Lester
when your
Brown?
case is still open, you cannot mention because it's confidential information. It's not like family law where everything is in public, eye. But this is a state and county matter, meaning you cannot reveal the names, Nina's name, your daughter's name, your
I
wife's
didn't.
name.
You did. I said
No,
Lester
you
Brown.
said it several times. You said it several times on the show. Everybody knows. So what I'm trying to tell you, that's why they told you can't do that because you mentioned names. Have you not mentioned any names and just did the show, then they would not have known. Okay. So
Well, I
like
told
said,
them.
social media. Okay. Well, social media, everybody doesn't understand or may not understand that social media is the eyes is all over because again they use fictitious names to make you guys think they're against CPS, and we as people tend to trust people that says that to us because we're in the middle of a trials and tribulation with them, so we trust anybody that says I hate CPS. But the main thing that I'm trying to tell you is that you can be talking to the CPS worker herself, makes you think that her name is Alex Hernandez,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know who Alex Hernandez is, but you're disclosing so much to Alex Hernandez that you're literally sabotaging yourself and your case. So therefore, with Deidre's question as to GoFundMe page, if you disclose any of your children's names or your county's name or the social worker's name or what have you, they will find out. Other people that want to do the GoFundMe page or want to support the GoFundMe page because they think you guys are going to use it for drugs, because that's what they hear. They hear that you're going to take that money and you're not going to use it for the case and you're using it only to gain something out of it, meaning pay your bills or to get drugs or whatever the case may be. That's why oftentimes the GoFundMe page doesn't work as well. So there's so many different scenarios as why it might not work. So anything you do on social media, you need to be very aware of who you're speaking with. In my opinion, you shouldn't talk to anybody except an attorney. And also anybody that tells you they have certificates of this and that from the court and this, that's not true. It's not true. You have to understand anybody can make a fake certificate and say, this is my certificate. Anybody that tells you they're a sitting attorney and they can help you, that's a lie. It's a lie. There's a lot of things out there that you guys are being misled with wrong information, wrong everything. It's just ridiculous. So
Can I comment on something that you just said?
Yeah.
For me, it was more of I obviously knew that it was all BS when they would tell me, "Oh, we could help you, we could help you," because first of all, it's not a guarantee that they can help me. They could try to help me, but when they would tell me, "Oh, I can guarantee you your kid's gonna come back to your life," how can you guarantee me that? You don't even know the full situation of my case. So how can you promise me something that you don't even know? So
Exactly.
when I hear things like that, to me, I'm like, next person,
No,
please. And
exactly.
when I spoke to you yesterday, honestly, you didn't mention anything like that. That's the only reason why I
Mr. Davis even has said that he
um,
doesn't necessarily guarantee anybody's case that he fights because you just
and
don't
see,
know.
that's
Yeah.
somebody that's honest and you could trust.
Thank you,
Honestly,
Marcos. I appreciate that.
yeah,
Um,
and
I don't sugarcoat anything, you guys. I really don't. I just say it how it is. And to me, titles don't mean shit to me. It's the
yeah,
person with integrity and character means a lot to me more than titles. I don't care if
hmm
you're the vice president or you're the CEO of whatever, Charles Schwab. I don't care. You're human. That's all it is. A title, a card, it doesn't make you who you are. You are who you are, whether you have a title or not. So don't deceive people because the one thing I hate is deception and lies. You lied to me, your history, you're done. There is no coming back. We're done. Because to me, if you lie once, you lie twice, you lie three times, you lie four times, it's not going to stop. It's going to continue on.
right.
So to me, deception is not, there's no room for deception in my life. And that's, you guys need to be able to understand that no one has your back except your attorney and God, of course, if you believe in God.
Yeah, of
So
course.
no one has your back except your attorney. Even family members can turn against you. There's
Hmm.
people that lie all the time that say, "Oh yeah, he's my brother, he's my sister, she's my sister." No, anybody can be a brother and sister verbally, right? But it doesn't necessarily
Yes,
mean it's true. That's
yes.
another deception right there. So it's there's a lot. There's a lot going on. Don't be deceived. Be alert and be vigilant. Very important. And that's my advice for you guys today when it comes to that. Now, another thing, Marcos, I would like you to share a little bit of your story, but do not mention the town, the county your case is in, or anything like that, please.
Okay, so my story's basically common. There's this situation where my daughter was removed from my care. There's many reasons why they said that she was removed, but the main cause was due to some three reports, DV reports, domestic violence reports. Um, Me physically hurting my daughter or neglecting her or not loving her was never shown. They have no proof of that. I've always been there for my daughter. When she was born, I was there at the hospital, signed papers, I did everything that I had to do.
Hmm.
I brought her home, and I was happy as heck, man. I was happy as I could possibly be, being a brand new dad. Um, Unfortunately, when all this happened, it confused the heck out of me so much that I didn't know what to do, who to go to. Um, I'm at the point where I want to get my daughter back and I want to fight for her, but sometimes with the whole situation going with finances and like how we were just talking about trusting people or picking the right lawyers, it's been a battle, and I'm getting to the point where I'm ready to do something different. That's why I'm here today to with Miss G, because the way she communicated with me yesterday was amazing. It was straight honesty, um, and that's what I really need. I just need to inform myself more about cases and just to get from point A to point B. What I'm
How
trying to do.
far are you into your case?
It's already 2 years going. Tomorrow I have a
Oh,
court hearing. They're giving me
oh.
until the end of, I believe, April, May, June, and June. My bad. I'm sorry, June, to comply with the requests that they have me doing, which is therapy,
So they
counseling.
haven't terminated your reunification services yet?
Deidre, let him finish. Let him
They
finish.
did, they did they did terminate me, but for some strange reason, I'm still, having visits with my daughter once a
We'll be
week.
thankful for
Um,
that.
yeah, and I'm super thankful. Um, I still get to like spend time with her, and I have a bondage with her, which is really amazing. But I'm so confused because she's already in a foster home. and they keep telling me 2 months extension, 2 months extension, but for me, 2 months is like it feels like forever, you know.
Mhm. But when I talked to you yesterday, Marcos, you said that they did not even do a bonding
Hey,
study,
Doggy. Hey,
correct?
Doggy.
Or
No, they did not. They did not do no bond. I was never even mentioned. I didn't even know about that until you mentioned it yesterday.
mhm. And
Yeah,
also
They
for
avoid
most
those
of you
like the
guys that
plague.
don't understand clearly what he's talking about, the foster parent is actually a family member,
correct,
and she works for, I'm not going to say what entity of the government, but she works for the government. She's
correct.
part of that entity, and they literally gave her upper hand for everything, to everything. Marcos did not do anything to deserve to lose his daughter. She's a baby, by the way. Um, there was
Now, did you
no
just get her
domestic
home?
violence.
Was that where your story
They
went?
let me finish, Darren. There was no domestic violence. There was no um, the only thing that he showed was anger of him not be able to see his daughter at first. But social workers took that as he has anger issues.
Hmm.
But I was telling Marcos who doesn't have anger issues. Darren had it. Everyone had it. Every
Hmm.
one of us had it. So therefore, he's a true victim of CPS. So my thing is, I haven't talked to Davis about his case yet, but I will today, hopefully after he's done with the court. Um, but I wanted to see what we can do to help him.
Yeah, but
And
is your next hearing the TPR hearing? Is that the next one
Uh,
coming up?
what is TPR? I'm not too familiar
it's
with
a
that.
To
termination
terminate
of
your,
parental rights.
No,
yeah,
they've on. I have a piece of paper that says I've been terminated, and
no,
like,
your reunification services were probably terminated, but your parental rights haven't been terminated yet. But that's the next hearing most likely coming up if your reunification
no,
services.
I did get my parental rights removed legally. I'm not a parent anymore.
So how do you still have a case open if your rights are already terminated?
You tell me. I have the piece of paper. I could show it to you guys just to prove it.
Wow.
No.
I
You
don't,
don't have to show it to us.
Yeah, but
You can show it to me and Attorney Davis.
if his rights are terminated, how could he even still have visitation?
We don't know if his rights are terminated,
He
Deidre.
said that that's what.
He doesn't
Okay.
know for sure because it could be she could have guardianship. We don't know. He doesn't know.
yeah,
He
yeah.
doesn't
I don't. I
know
don't.
anything
I
about
don't know
his
the
case.
full detail. I don't know the full details on their behalf, on that family's behalf, or the caregiver's behalf. I just know her first name. That's all I know. And it's been really hectic to even ask for help because I don't know the full details. And this is my first court case. I've never been in trouble with the law. I've never dealt with cops, lawyers, anything like this before. So this is all new to me, and I'm so confused on what to
And it's
do. I
his
don't.
first baby as well. His first
Yes.
baby as well. But
Yes.
that's why I told you. I said, let me see the paperwork, and I told you to. I think I told you text it to me or email it to me. I'm not sure if I gave you my email address.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not too sure, but
Yeah,
I'll send it as soon as possible.
yeah. Send it to me as soon as possible so I can at least know what I'm addressing to Vincent about this, and we'll
Okay.
see what we can do to help you. Seriously, after the show, just remind me. Just send me a text message to
Okay.
go through that. I want to tell you guys something also about, and you guys all can share your information as well, or your points, your thoughts about it. After completing all classes, if the social worker tells you you complete all your classes, all these wonderful things, and then they say no bonding study, and then right away after you complete all your classes, they say, okay, termination of reunification. Now, you're as a parent is thinking to yourself, how can that be? I did all my classes. They said if I do 12 months of therapy, I will get my kids back. Even if you
Mhm.
didn't do anything, even if you had to go to a drug rehab and you've never done drugs in your life, they do that to you. So, with that being said, they mislead you and tell you if you're done with all of this, you're going to have your child. And then all of a sudden, at the hearing, they tell you, nope, the recommendation from the social worker to the judge is termination of reunification services. And then after that is termination of parental rights. You guys understand that this happens all the time. A lot of you guys called me today, and you guys are watching the show now, told me that you're good parents, you've never done anything, you don't think they're going to terminate your rights. That's not true. That is far from the truth. So don't be deceived, because a talk is a talk, but action speaks louder than words. And that goes with everybody in your life. Action speaks louder. So if their action is contradicting their words, then they're not going to do what they tell you they're going to do. And Marcos understands what I'm saying, because him and I discussed this yesterday. So
Yes.
be be aware that their goal is for you not to hire an attorney for your help to help you on the case. Their goal
And
is
then go
their
ahead.
goal is
Sorry.
for you to stay with your court appointed attorney, because the court appointed attorney encourages you and forces you to interact with the social worker. Now, that's the goal. They get paid not for services for you. And they don't get paid by you, by the way, they get paid by the state. So their main goal is for you to cooperate with the social worker. That's very important. So, with that being said, if you cooperate with the social worker, it makes everything great for them. So, be mindful and understand that they're not for you, they're against you. Um, Barbara and Dr. Fowler, please, share your point on what I just said, if you
Well,
don't
I
mind.
have something to say from just personal experience and the fact that, especially if your child is taken like as a newborn, like my youngest was, they also like to drag your case out on purpose so that that whole time that child is with these foster parents and establishing a bond so that when and if it comes to the TPR hearing, now they're going to say it's in the best interest for that child to stay with those foster parents because that's the bond and the people that he only knows, because it's like, how can I argue that I have a stronger bond with my child when he's only now been with them because the case has gone on for this long? It's kind of like they set you up for failure on purpose because their goal from day one is to adopt your child out.
And thus, I said that on the shows many times, Yadra.
Yeah.
Barbara, go ahead, honey.
And to me, that you just hit the nail on the head. This whole system is fraud. They planned from day one to adopt these children out. So all the money that is paid for these classes, for somebody who's never touched a drug in their life to have to go to rehab, the legal fees, they're paying the CPS lawyer, they're paying the lawyers for the parents, they're paying the lawyer, all that. All the processes we go through to try to save our kids, it's fraud, because they are saying, do this and get this. You do this with no intention of them ever giving you what's being promised. That is fraud. And so, look at your documents carefully and see when the permanency plan, which is the adoption, was first recommended, and how many classes, services, whatever did you have to go through after that. From that point on, I would think that a court would say, yeah, that's fraud. If that was a business agreement with some private company, that would be seen as fraud, because here I'm doing all these things. Money's being paid out for me to do these things with the understanding I'm going to receive something at the end. In this case, our children. So all that money that is paid out is total fraud.
It is.
And
It
that's
The
something.
money's getting paid out to the court, the places that they recommend. They don't let you pick
Exactly.
your
So they're
counselors.
double dipping.
That's their big money machine that keeps on going and going. It's who they, you know what I mean? That's all it is, a big money machine.
They're double dipping. The agencies get paid for these services, but the feds and the state are paying for this, and they're paying for the social workers to do the work to get you into these. It's all money, and it's fraud, because I am agreeing to the terms of this contract that I will do this and I will be compensated with this. Because let's face it, we all know in the courts, our children are seen as property. So I'm doing all this work and I expect to get this property. If I were building, doing renovations on a house for somebody and the agreement was I got the house in the end, guess what? If you turn around and tell me that I don't get the house, I'm going to sue you, because I put all that money into it with this understanding That's fraud. It's the same thing here. And like you were saying
Mhm.
earlier about the GoFundMe page, technically you can start a GoFundMe page. Now, CPS doesn't want you to have it because Miss G's right. They'll go and try to say you use the money for drugs. But what they really fear is you're going to get the money to hire somebody like Vincent Davis or another lawyer to go after them. And they target people who can't afford lawyers to begin with. So here you are hustling, trying, start up this fund so people can help you, and then they'll contact GoFundMe and, oh, she's doing this, this, or this, and get it shut down. It's fraud right from the start.
Okay, I need to mention something real quick. Auntie Barbara is right, you guys. And before I go to Darren and Dr. Fowler, I need to mention this. I had a call today. He's watching right now. I send him the link to the show. His story is this. He had a domestic violence in 2019 in a different state, and then the wife went, you know, she made false allegations against him. Then she went to the court and said, I take it back. He didn't do anything to me. Then the case was closed. No problem. Then they moved to another state. I'm not going to mention the name of the state. Then an argument happened between both of them. He didn't touch her. There was like an argument about something that happened in the past. Anyways, and then he tripped on the ground with his dog. When he was turning around in the kitchen, he tripped on the dog, and then he was holding it, trying to save himself with the chair, and the chair fell and then flew at the wife's leg. Then she took that opportunity to call the police again and make false allegations. Now, but this time CPS is involved. Now, he has a domestic violence and a CPS case. Now, that CPS case, he told me that the children are still with the wife. Now, we all know that when there's a domestic violence, especially for the second time, and I'm sure, and like I told him, I said, I'm sure your wife said something to them already about the 2019 incident. So that means she's allowing the pattern to continue.
Mhm.
And I said, they're going to go against her and you. But right now, they're not making it about her. They're making it about you to separate you from the home.
Yep.
So therefore, they're going to target the wife, saying you failed to protect your children. Therefore, we're removing your children, even though she thinks the children are going to remain with her because she made this report. You guys are delusional. If you guys think that way, you are not thinking correctly. Because when you have children, especially in this, United States, they look
Yes.
at them as merchandise that sells. That's very important for you to understand. It doesn't matter if you're mother of the year or father of the year. It doesn't matter if you're a saint. It doesn't matter if you have wings from heaven. It doesn't matter. They're going to get their incentives. A social worker makes $197,000 a year, from which most of it is incentives from the federal government, bonuses that they get. So please be mindful and don't think you are all knowing when you know shit, nothing. You know nothing about the law. Also, most of you guys hire family law attorneys that didn't handle a CPS case before. Now, CPS jurisdiction laws is completely different than family court, meaning as juvenile dependency judge overpowers family court judge. So if a family court judge gives you custody, that juvenile dependency court judge takes that custody from you. And then they always follow the guidelines of the social worker and the recommendation of the social worker. Okay, so be very careful on who you hire. I had a lady, a grandmother, that hired a family law attorney. She told me that yesterday. She hired a family law attorney. He told her he can help her. He didn't do anything on her case. And he took $8,500 from her. Then she finds out on the state bar page that he never handled juvenile dependency cases. Then she went to his website, nothing, never handled a juvenile dependency case. So she said she's going to call him today and request her retainer back. But you guys have to understand, they will charge you for everything they've done in your case. One call, any call they made on your case or any filing they filed on your case or whatever. So you're not going to get the whole retainer back. But the point I'm making this is the point I'm saying this is because you guys need to be careful who you hire. So she said, I hired him because he had 5 stars. I said, well, that's weird, because sometimes social workers, what they do, if they know a specific attorney attacks them and sues them, they will go on his page or her page and start writing bad reviews. Why? Because they're discouraging people from hiring this individual. But they will implement someone else and give them good reviews or write good comments about them because they want you to stick with that person. There's a reason for that. There's attorneys out there, and I'm not going to name who, that actually work with the department. They do. They work with the department. They don't want to have any bad blood because they want to be judges one day. So what are they going to do? They're going to comply. And then you're like, wait a minute, but you work for me. What's going on? And then you question the attorney. And then oftentimes you have the right attorney and you want the attorney to go by what you want him to do. Like this client, I went to hearings 3 times with Davis for. She doesn't want to use Davis' strategy. She only wants to use her strategy. Her strategy didn't get her kids back for 12 months. Wow. She hired us after 12 months. So Davis is like, no, we have to do it this way. I want to win. And he told her that specifically, I want to win. In front of me, he said, I want to win. So let me do it this way. No. I paid you. You do it my way. And he ended up doing it her way. So, and then she complains when she didn't get her kids back. She complains that day, that is. It's not over yet. But she complains that it was Davis's fault. Now, I witnessed all this. No one else can tell me. I mean, I witnessed everything via text message, in person, everything. And she's screwing up her own case. Then she has her dad call me, telling me that he's going to file a bar complaint because his daughter told him Davis didn't do anything on her case. I would like to see her try because I have proof of everything. So therefore, keep in mind, when you have the right attorney fighting for you and you want to be vindicated rather than focus on getting the children back, in her mind, she wants to be vindicated first. I want to be heard. I want to be heard. The judge is like, you have an attorney. Let your attorney talk. Then she didn't. She started talking over the judge. Then the judge said, you know what? If you don't stop, I'm going to arrest you. Yeah. I want to be heard. Then that judge, the judge that she says is a bad judge, the following court hearing we went to, the judge was changed. So Davis was happy. Judge changed, there's bright future ahead. Then he comes out. He made a deal. She's gonna have the kids overnight. Blah 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 blah. He said the only thing I want you to do is don't open your mouth. This judge doesn't know you, but don't open your mouth. The first thing she did is open her mouth. Wow. It's like you're talking to her and she's in La La Land. It's like goes in and out the other ear. I couldn't believe what I'm seeing. People in the courtroom, outside the courtroom, couldn't believe what they were hearing, because there's 3 people that came up to me and Davis and said, you have Attorney Davis here? I wish we had Attorney Davis here, but I can't afford him. Listen to him. And she's like, yeah, okay, thanks. And then she brushes them off like, whatever. But the sad part is this: when we want things done our way, we're going to screw the case. You guys understand this, right? You guys hear me. You guys cannot win thinking you know your own strategy. Because if that's the case, again, you would have had your kids back with you. But her dad, he spoke to the wrong person, which is me, when he threatens. So I had to put him in his place. Right. He's not part of the case. Therefore, I don't have to speak to him. So what his daughter is telling him is completely contradicts what is happening in reality. So I told him, I said, before your daughter tells you her story, I said, you need to keep in mind that there's her side and there's the truth. I said, if you think you want to play that game, you're playing with the wrong person. Because I can honestly tell you, me and Davis argue about almost everything. But when it comes to his ethics as an attorney, when it comes to his brilliant mind, I have no doubt that this man can win any case, because the way his mind works is ridiculously brilliant. Like, I can't express to you guys how brilliant that man is. He can get an idea when we're driving to court as a strategy. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's done.
35 years. That's his
37 years.
strategy.
37 years.
37.
So,
Yeah.
with that
Out of the
being
top
said,
here.
yeah, you're right, you guys, Marcos and Deidre. Yes. But the thing about it is, this woman, God bless her soul, she makes me want to just go to the corner and just sit there for hours, on how much demands and how much confusion she makes everything seem. And but again, if you have an attorney, do not speak in court unless you're spoken to. And I doubt it very hard that the CPS judge is going, I mean, the juvenile dependency judge is going to ask you questions while you have a private attorney present. Um, It's better to have your attorney speak for you. But when you tell your attorney that you only hired him so he can be present, so you can be heard, then you have a really screwed up strategy.
Mhm.
Well, and Mr. Davis says, do you want to be right or do you want to win? If you want to win, I mean, there's a reason you're paying a lawyer to do the job, because you don't know all the ins and outs of it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
let them do what you're paying them to do.
Exactly. But we don't have to be vindicated. You guys don't understand. Vindication comes after. The main focus is get the kids. Then you can be vindicated. Vindication to me is when you sue them, when you have the proper documents, the proper evidence, all that, and you have a good lawsuit. But most of you guys think you do have a good lawsuit when in fact you don't have a good lawsuit.
Mhm.
But
Because
winning the lawsuit won't necessarily get your kids back neither, too. So
yeah, I said
Yeah.
that several times as well. But there's there's a trick to it. Mr. Davis says he cannot just take any lawsuit. If he takes any lawsuit and it's not a winning lawsuit and there's no concrete evidence, he can get sanctioned.
Right.
Remember that. And the
Yes.
sanction can go from that. I think he mentioned like 50 something thousand or maybe up. I can't remember. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And then you get the attorney gets sanctioned and you get sanctioned. Both of you in two different ways, you're going to get sanctioned. So people think, oh, I have a winning case, Mr. Davis. I have a winning case. And then they go to the office, meet with Mr. Davis. He looks at what they have, and then he's like, I'm sorry, I can't take that. Yeah, because I don't want to, I can't. It's not a good case. But Mr. Davis, this really happened. But what do you have to prove? What is there for you to prove to me that it happened? Right? Something, example, if the social worker came to your home and you had a camera. I have cameras all over my home, outside, all over, like every direction you can think of. I have cameras. I have cameras inside my home as well. Now, if somebody comes in and then they say, okay, I am so and so, blah blah blah, and then they said, um, I promise you I'm going to kill you, example, right? Now that's evidence. Get it now? Because they walked in my home. There's a sign outside saying this house is 24-hour surveillance. Means it's protected 24 hours. But you walked in my home, right? You're giving consent to be recorded. That's very
Mm.
important for you guys to understand. If you don't have that, then you have no right to record them without their consent. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's evidence. But if you have your word against theirs, guess who they're going to believe? Their word.
There.
Exactly. So keep in mind, you can have a good case, but please, from the beginning of the case, make sure you have notes, make sure you have a notebook, make sure that you write everything down, the date and the time. Like August 13, 2022, Miss Smith came to my home at 9:15 a.m. Miss Smith was wearing, a blue jacket, white shirt, and gray pants. Miss Smith asked me the following, etc., etc. Miss Smith left the house at 10:18 a.m. You know what I mean? That's like having a journal. Go ahead, Marcos.
I was gonna say I do that, but with the visitation process. So what I do is I keep records of all the text messages that I do. So when I schedule my visitation with my daughter, I have
Mhm.
proof that we've said it the day before. I also take pictures every time I'm with my daughter. I take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to my case with my ex, I never thought about even taking pictures or anything like that. So I don't have evidence of what, other than one video. Do have one video where, let's just say she was physically doing something to herself, when she later on said I did it to her, and I have video proof that she was doing it to herself. So
And that's another thing he didn't mention earlier. He has proved that his significant other, or the mother of the child, did that to herself, but she blamed it on him
but
as
see,
well.
I don't. I wouldn't pursue a lawsuit or like trying to attack her, because at this point in time, that's not my main focus. My main focus is to work on myself and to get my daughter back. Whatever she's doing on her own, I have no reason to attack her. We did what we did already. We split up, and that's it. I want to focus on my kid now. So that's the only
Exactly.
reason why I don't use that evidence, or plus, if I do hurt the situation more, my daughter's only going to get permanently placed into a foster care, which I don't want. So I'm very cautious about what I present and what I don't present.
That's good. That's good for everybody to know, also to hear it from you, someone who's been there, experiencing currently. Be very careful, guys, and make sure you write good notes, and make sure on your visitation, write notes, and write down what the child was wearing, the color of the jacket, everything, even the shoes, Nike shoes, blue, you know, blue coat, whatever the child is wearing, whatever you brought the child to the visitation. Meaning, if you brought the child food, what kind of food did you bring the child? Of course, you're going to bring the child their favorite food,
Right.
hopefully not McDonald's. Make sure that you're actually showing that you care about the child's diet, you care about the child's well-being, food, what have you. Toys, bring toys. If the child enjoys playing, what do you call this? Uh, Roblox or something. There's like a game called Roblox that all kids love for some reason. If they enjoy playing that, I brought the child, the Nintendo Switch, whatever you guys call it, and the child played for about 10, 15 minutes. The child ate at whatever time. The child enjoyed the food, and you take pictures of your child enjoying your company. Now, if the social worker asks you a question during the visit, and they do this deliberately, guys don't get it. They do this deliberately. Hey, Miss So and so, I heard that you're from India. Is that true? And then Miss So and so turns to the social worker and say, "Oh yes, I'm from India, but I came here when I was 9 years old, and my dad brought us here because of this, and my mom brought us, and then we wish we never came. I wish I was back in India." And then she's telling her all this. The social worker on the report, on the monitor report, that is, she's gonna write, or he's gonna write, "Mother not paying attention to the child. Mother was speaking
Wow.
about India. Mother was speaking to me about her childhood." Do you see what they're not going to say? I asked the mother this question.
Mhm.
I know this to be true 100%. So please keep in mind, when you are doing a monitored visitation, you cannot reply to the social worker. All you have to do is say, "I'm sorry," nicely, "I'm sorry, Miss So and so or Mr. So and so. Perhaps we can discuss this after my visit is over. Right now, I would like to concentrate on my child or my children." You know, so, but nicely. Do not attack her or him and say, "Don't you know I'm on a visit? What is wrong with you? Why are you talking to me? Why are you in my business?" That's what they do. Some parents do this. But you have to understand too, they also record you. They're trying to get something out of you. They're trying to get a reaction out of you. So when I tell you they're sociopathic, narcissistic, believe me, because that's how a sociopath, narcissistic person triggers you, by pushing you.
Mm.
Okay?
I've
Yes.
had my social workers show up to a couple of my visits, not to my knowing, and me not realizing that she was there until like 20, 30 minutes later. I mean, it wasn't anything bad on my part, but that's also something to be aware of, that they can and will do that to try and think that they're going to catch you maybe not being that parent that you would normally try and be, knowing that she was there. But, that kind of, I thought was really like,
Right.
just, vindictive at times, to know that, it's, I don't know, just always
No,
be
it's
aware
true.
too.
It's true. It's very true. And back to you, Miss Auntie Fowler. I mean, Auntie Fowler, Dr. Fowler. Oh my God. Nah, Dr. Fowler. Sorry about that. I'm
Hi.
saying Auntie Barb. It's just calling everybody in. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Miss G, the other panelists, Marcos, Barbara, Deidre. I greet you all. I do have a couple of updates. I'm the grandmother on the team. My then 4-month-old granddaughter was kidnapped from my arms by a CPS worker October 7th, and the family knows nothing of her from then till now. So, for those of you who did not know, and I've been in court and in court and in court, and my sympathies to the person who spent over $8,000. I've spent tens of thousands in total in the past 2 years on a parade of defective attorneys that I had to tell the law to, that I had to tell how to write an appropriate motion. And I had to, and I did have to direct. And several of them didn't even get to make it to court. They just took the money and diddled around with a few phone calls or something like that. So I will say this is my personal experience when we were discussing the selection of attorneys. You never know who's going to be good for you. Even though someone may have gotten great reviews and they did wonderful work for someone else, there are statistics involved, probabilities involved. But this is my personal experience after dealing with so many lawyers. On a typical day, I talk to 6 or 7 lawyers even now to get varying opinions, to find out what people know out there. And this is personal, it's not a recommendation. But when a lawyer tells me, come into my office and bring your paperwork and pay me a consultation fee, I immediately tell them, thank you very much, and I hang up. I don't even want to talk to them anymore. My personal experience is that's a hustle. It's a quick hustle. A lawyer knows, I think, a knowing lawyer, especially since this dependency law is such a discrete area of law, as Ms. G was saying, it's very minute, very, very highly specialized. And in our area, that means that there are very few practitioners because there are very few parents who can, or grandparents who can afford to pay for dependency lawyers. It's not money driven. There are very few, if ever. I don't think I've encountered any that are specialists in dependency matters here.
But may I interrupt you for a second, Dr. Fowler? With all due respect, if an attorney, if you have, and I experienced this in my law firm, and where I work, if somebody has 1 paper or 2 papers to look at, the attorney will say, email it to me. Let me look at it, right? Now, if you have a bunch of paperwork that you want the attorney to sit there and have look at all that information, they have the right to charge you a consultation fee. Why? Because they're taking their time away, and attorneys get paid for services. They don't get paid by the state.
Ms. G, I'm not giving a recommendation to anyone else. I'm simply stating my personal experience.
No, I understand, but you're also stating that that's not the right way to go about it.
Well, what I'm sharing is my personal experience. After dozens and dozens of lawyers, this is just a formula that's worked for me. I've also purchased legal services from a subscription service. I've done everything. Just my personal experience. Again, because this area of law is so discrete and there are so few practitioners, it's not money driven. So it's hard to find people who really know this, even though, as you stated earlier, you find general practitioners who know family law, but very few who are willing or able to even delve into dependency law here, at least in my area. When I briefly describe my case, I feel that a person who really knows this shouldn't need to know much more. They should know within the first 3 minutes of my vignette that
because you're telling us your story. But wait. Now hold on. I have to correct you though, because people are listening to this, and I have every right to correct you. This is my show. So what I'm trying to tell you is that not attorneys, you think the case is the same for everyone? No, you're mistaken.
No, I'm not
It's
saying
not
that
the
the
same.
cases are the same, but I'm
Mhm.
saying again that because this is such a discrete, very highly specialized area of law, my experience and my observation, even my own experience, if I were to hear any of the backgrounds of any of you, I feel like immediately I have an idea of the gloss. I have an idea of the matter because two things have happened. Number one, rights have been violated. Many of our children have been taken away without probable cause. And number two, the children have been unlawfully seized,
Mhm.
Ill- illegally seized, or even kidnapped. That's just my personal experience. So I personally tend to shy away from attorneys who want a consultation fee, my personal experience, because the ones who have charged me a consultation fee have never taken my case. Again, that's not a recommendation. It's just my own personal experience. I've found more success with attorneys who charge what they call a flat rate. So the attorney that I'm working with now, for example, with my custody matter with my grandson, charged me here a very modest rate. It was $5,000. But for that, he made all the phone calls that needed to be made, all the emails that needed to be made, not on an hourly basis. And he even extended himself and just came to court as many times as court was necessary. Again, personal experience, you may find that it works better for you to pay the retainer and then spend down off of your retainer, meaning that the person bills you uh, for the hours that they put in, and then you have to top it off. That's another system that I've used. So again, these are not recommendations because different things work for different people at different times.
Different state, different cases, different people.
Right.
So,
So
right.
even now, while my granddaughter is in dependency, I have asked my attorney to file for the two filings here that go with adoption. Number one is the termination of rights, and the second one is the adoption. The good part about here in our area is that those matters are not handled in family court. So there'll be a different judge than the dependency court. It's handled in Philadelphia in what they call orphans court. Benjamin Franklin established orphans court. I think it had to do with wills and estates and decedents and how people inherit property. So that's where the adoption matter is handled. But he wants another $10,000. I gave him a modest down payment and I thought that he had started the filing. Well, he hasn't. So that was a bit deflating for me today. He tells me, "Oh, yeah, I know you've given me a lot of money, but I can't even begin to do this until I have half of it." So I'm feeling a bit drab about that. For those of you who also may not know, I have a custody petition pending for the custody of my granddaughter. And again, here in Pennsylvania, we have a law. Some people call it the grandparents' law. And there's a law, provision of law that should pretty much automatically give me custody while there's an open dependency matter. The problem has been getting the judge to hear my custody petition. I've been to court 3 times. 3 times things happen, and he didn't hear it. So the frustration is there's nothing that I can think of that we can do between my attorney and I to compel the judge to give me even a hearing date for my custody petition. The next dependency matter isn't until sometime in May. I don't know when. My attorney's optimistic that will be heard before then. In the meantime, I'm very uncomfortable and I'm not undertaking any actions. So my most recent action steps have been I finally made contact with a woman here who was known, I think, reasonably known in the wages for housework movement. She's an activist and she's done some protests against CPS in our area. So I've sent her what I call it's like a press release that I developed. I sent her that so that she can just quickly access the facts. And she has a group. And sometimes with parents, I know that they can come to court, even though they can't go into the courtroom during the proceeding, but they have some leverage with the courts. There's
Mhm.
another group here who helps with helps people to participate in their own defense. So, in a sense, again, in my estimation, each one of us has been charged with something. We are defendants, even though we're parents. Allegations are all out there against us. Court allegations, notations all over the place. So, in a sense, we haven't had the right to face our accusers. We haven't been properly charged. We haven't been properly sentenced like a person who really is a criminal. So, this group that engages in participatory defense in our area actually helps people to defend themselves if you're in court. But they also have some inroads. So, I've reached out to them. I went before them last Friday and I was interviewed with their panel, and they're going to um, see what kind of strategies they can come up with. One of the people on their team, because this area, we're in a large metropolitan area, but it's still a very small town when it comes to any kind of legal matters. It's very, what would the word be, incestuous here. And I named the social worker because they asked me, and the agency that's involved because they asked me. And it just so happens that one of their members knows this person very well and knows the system that is responsible for taking my granddaughter. So that might, and they've already given me another contact person higher up in CPS to call. So I will do that. I've also put in several more complaint calls with something called CORA, CORA. It's the commissioner's office for DHS. They're supposed to not just simply take your complaint, as in the case of Childline, but they're supposed to take your complaint and get back to you and execute some kind of an investigation. So an investigator did return my call after 6 months of trying to get through to them. And we'll see what happens. At least I made contact with someone. So those are some of the action steps that I've taken. And yesterday I went to our state legislator's office for an open house. And took a letter. Thank you. I took a letter that I drafted for the legislator asking, and I took my one pager with the pleading. I call it an incident report that just gives the basic facts. And in my letter, I have requested that, dear Mr. Legislator, would you take this matter into your consideration? If it's within your powers, can you make an inquiry to the CEO of the organization where the social worker was hired, not DHS per se? Or can you take any other action step that you think is appropriate, or refer me to people, or any other thing that you can intervene, even if it's just forwarding my letter, which I'm attaching, to the CEO saying, hi there, we're the family members of the baby. And in keeping with the family fine law, would you please put the baby back with her family during the course of the dependency matter? It's basically 2 sentences. So the people there, the constituent services were very friendly. They were very attentive to me. They took everything and they promised to get back to me. So I'm hoping and praying that I think a simple inquiry from the legislator's office to the CEO of this organization may not turn the key. It may not bring home the gravy, but I think it certainly would get their attention a little bit more than just what I've been trying to do on my own, because my thought is if they see something that's an inquiry from the legislator's office, they may feel compelled to answer. And what is the answer going to be? And hopefully it puts in their minds that, oh, if the legislator's office is watching, who else is watching us? How else are, so that's my update for now. I every day try to get up and do this diligence so that I feel better.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us, Dr. Fowler. But I just also want to bring attention at this to everyone else. What Dr. Fowler said, that's great.
Back.
However,
Sorry, Darren's back.
Are we done, Deidre?
I just thought it was funny.
All right, great. Now, when you guys think that the government or the entities might work together with you guys, or they might see something is going on, something is wrong going on in another department, that's not necessarily mean it's true. because a house divided against itself is not going to stand, right? It's not going to stand. So they all work together for a purpose, for a reason. So sometimes you have to take it a notch higher. You have to let your voices be heard. And we're not talking about just Dr. Fowler. I already know Dr. Fowler is a great mom. I already know she's a great grandma because she's old school. I mean, old school grandmas, they know what they're doing. They're great. She's not on drugs. She's not a prostitute. She's not on the street sitting down and, injecting herself with heroin, whatever they do. She's literally legit. Like, she's there for her grandchildren. She was there for her daughter. Just because her daughter went astray, that has nothing to do with her upbringing. That just has a lot to do with the daughter's interaction with other people that corrupted her upbringing. Let's make that very clear. So when Dr. Feller has taken it to another
Just from when the
notch,
family was a family.
yes, exactly. So just because Dr. Feller has taken it to another notch with the government, with a branch of government, it doesn't necessarily mean that's going to open their eyes. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay.
Like I said, we need to be heard, meaning we need to be heard. Heard. How do we get heard? If you really think back with George Floyd, do you remember George Floyd? Do you
Yes.
guys remember when the whole country protested out there? You guys remember that?
Of course.
Okay. Were they heard when this happened? They actually took action, right?
Yeah.
It was all over the news. They took action. Had they not done what they done all over the countries, we're talking about, I think it was other countries too, Dr. Fowler, right? It was actually a country, was it? I can't remember which country, they were protesting with us for George Floyd.
Oh, yes.
The
All
George Floyd, I think that was Canada. Canada was also
Canada.
involved.
Yeah.
Yes, Canada was hugely involved in this situation. I know this for a fact because I followed the scene so many times. I actually wanted to go to Georgia to be there, but I couldn't make it at the time.
Yeah. So with that being said, I mean, he just confirmed it. Marcos just confirmed it. Thank you for
Yeah.
that, Marcos.
Yeah,
But
no worries.
I saw the streets and they were not empty.
No,
It was not 15 of them.
millions,
Not 15.
millions.
So my goal is this.
Okay,
You
but
guys, go ahead, Darren. My brother from
well,
another mother.
so what is it going to take though, right? So I was doing some research the other day, and the what is it? The CPPA? Is that who they are? The people, I guess. What are they? They oversee the CPS stuff. The CPPA.
Mhm.
So they
Department
said
of
since
Social
1999. Since
The
they said
Department of what?
1999.
Barbara?
Department of Social Services, DSS. That's who's like in charge of it all.
No, but what I'm
The
saying is that this
scumbags.
is
Let's not forget that.
well, regardless, the CPA, Child Protective Parent Association. So they said that since 1999, there's been 9,093,607,000 kids taken into custody.
Damn.
That's more.
How much?
That's since 1999. 9 million kids have been removed and put into foster care and then into adoption. So that's more. If you really want to think about it, if people aren't being impacted by this, World War II, 6 million Jews were annihilated by Adolf Hitler. And that's a lot of people. Children in the United States have been removed from their homes. Maybe that's a number that can stagger people, because what are people not getting to see that our government is kidnapping children and using the funds to resource their programs? Like, what is it going to get for the people to stop and say, that's a dirty person that lost their kid, and stand up next to them and say, wow, maybe they didn't do anything wrong. Like, where is the good and the people going to come out here? Because this is getting asinine, Georgia. How long have you been at this? Where's the crowds? Where are the people that can be sick to their stomach about this stuff?
But they're protesting about everything else, and I see people doing that. But why aren't you protesting over children being stolen, kidnapped, and used as sex traffickers?
Well, that's why.
Go ahead.
We have to get the facts out. Like you said, 9 million kids is what you said, Darren?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, out of those 9 million kids, people need to understand, I forget the exact number, but it's nearly 90% of all CPS cases are closed without any findings of wrongdoing, no criminal charges. Once the case is dismissed, nothing
Right, the
happens,
kids are
no
still
call,
gone.
no nothing. But they drag it out the way that
Mhm.
ASFA is set up, the way they drag it out. They adopt the kids out, drop the case, no charge. That's kidnapping. Now, if you
Right.
can prove somebody beat a child and they're going to jail, by all means, they need to be out of that house. But when there's not even enough evidence to warrant a basic investigation, yet this system is set up to keep the children from their family, that's kidnapping. Think
Yep.
about any job. You work at McDonald's. If you got your job not wrong 90% of the time, would you still have a job? Yet
Yes.
these
Right.
social workers still
It's
have a
ridiculous.
job. They're still making money off of these kids, and parents and families and children are being destroyed. Children are dying in the system. They go missing in the system. Nobody is held accountable, and that's
Yeah.
why you said, Darren,
Yep.
the numbers are important. Okay, 9 million went missing or were taken. Okay, we can get that number, but now out of those 9 million, how many cases were dropped? Which means how many of those 9 million kids should have come home?
Right.
Good
That's
Well,
what
if
question.
you
we
take your
need to
number, I
get
know
out
the
there.
number you're
Is
talking
that
about. It's like
information.
87 or whatever.
Right. And that's the information that needs to get out there, because so many people, oh, it's child protective services. They're just, if they got it wrong, they'll fix it. No. And like people who say the system is broken, no, ma'am, it is not. The system is functioning
No, you know
just
what?
how the Adoption and Safe Families Act of 1997 designed
Right.
it to work.
It's for the
Well,
pedophiles
that's
to
true.
get
That's a
these
good
children.
point.
That's exactly. This
That's
thing's
a good
working
point.
perfectly.
So it is
Great.
not broken. It's working flawlessly.
No,
Ju-
but Auntie Barb, be
Just the
careful
way
how
they
you say
needed it
that,
to.
because
Right.
I know you're
Right.
being sarcastic, but they're not looking at it that way.
I
But
know.
the system is corrupt. Let's put it to you this way.
There
The
you go.
system is corrupt. It only
Right.
works for the abuser. I kid you
Exactly.
not. I swear.
What about the cases where the kid?
As God is my witness, it only works for the abuser. The abuser gets their needs
Look,
met.
get this.
Like Dr. Fowler, I give an
In the
example.
state of Maine,
She's amazing. Like as a grandmother, she's amazing. Amazing as a grandma. Because she reminds me a little bit of my grandma, from my mom's side. Now,
Mhm.
she uses like the old school, which is the best way to raise a baby, right? She knows what to feed a baby. She knows how to feed a baby. She knows when the baby is hungry. She knows when the baby
Mhm.
needs diaper changing, right? But they're making her look like she's stupid, she's crazy, and she doesn't know how to parent, and she doesn't know that the baby's crying for what reason, right? So again, that's how the system is corrupted. Why? Because now the child is not with the maternal grandmother. They choose to put the child somewhere else where the child is being abused. Do you guys hear me? Abusers are the ones that get their needs met. Go ahead, Barbara.
What?
And remember, that's how ASFA is designed. The money system, kinship care, very little money. Family foster care, a little more money. That's why CPS tries to get grandmothers and aunts and everybody to become foster parents, because then they get paid more. However, you take that same child and put them in a non-familial foster home, the money goes up significantly. So that's why there is, when CPS says that their stated goal is family reunification, if you look at ASFA, how does that, okay, if your goal is family reunification, how about this? Switch the money. Instead of giving out all this money to non-familial foster homes, give it to kinship placement.
Right. There you go.
they're not going to do that.
They're
Come
going to focus
on.
on therapy
In this
because they have
area,
something with their family and everything.
In
Right.
this area, we used to have something called, when they were changing the whole design of the child protective system about 20 years ago, they introduced something called SCO, which is services to children in their own homes. And I thought it even leaned a little bit to the left, but the policy decision at that time was to, when there are circumstances where the home is under stress or under resourced, to resource the home, to allow children to remain in their home and to infiltrate the home with services. And that went away. That also went away with the old guard. Here again, in the CPS system, I taught at Temple University at the School of Social Administration. I'm not a social worker, but I was associated with a myriad of social workers who were experienced, who were caring, who were able to broker the system. Yes, even though the system itself can be vicious, but they were human beings who were compassionate, who really did all that they could to care for children and care for families. And when the model changed to a corporate model, they were all let go or disincentivized. So now the
Right.
new wave of people in the system do not have what would you call humanitarianism. They're not
Yeah.
ethical humanists. They're
Okay.
people
Back
like
into
the people that we're
business.
working with
Right.
in our instance. Oh,
Okay.
one more thing, you guys. Since this is such a small area in this metropolitan area, guess what? One of the women on the participatory defense team, she saw me on the Zoom meeting. I didn't see who else was out there. I just, saw the people that were on camera. And she walked up to me at the event yesterday and she said, yeah, I had the same thing happen to me, that her grandchild was kidnapped out of the hospital. Does that sound familiar? The
Okay.
baby
Yes.
also has a
Guys,
seizure disorder. Pardon
let's
me.
I'm sorry, Dr. Fowler, but I have to
Of
answer
course.
this. We're not going to keep the show for 3 hours like last time. I have work to do. I want to answer Trent Dancy's comment. So, who is going to organize the class action lawsuit act now, etc.? Sorry. I spoke to Attorney Davis about this on the show that I do with him at 7 p.m. every night. And he actually said, you can have a class action lawsuit, but it has to be the same. For example, if it's it has to be the same thing, because everybody has different cases, right? But the class action suit has to be for the same matter, meaning social worker beat mother on the street, and then another one comes out and says that same social worker beat me on the street, and then another one comes and says that social worker did the same thing to me. Now you can have a class action lawsuit, get it? But you can't have a class action lawsuit if the cases are different. Meaning, you were arrested for drug use and the cartels, you work for the cartels, example. And then Deidre was a victim of CPS and she did nothing and it was her husband's doing, example. And then Auntie Barbara is like, wait a minute, I'm a grandma, I didn't do anything to my niece, but they took my niece from me. So now all of you cannot have a class action lawsuit.
Right, it's all different.
Because it's all different matters, but it has to come to the same matter. So if that social worker, for example, like a supervisor, which is a true story, they are part of the adoption agencies, meaning they're the main people on the adoption agencies, right? What they were doing is that person was stealing children initially on purpose, obviously, to put them in that adoption agency because it's going to bring him more profit. So therefore, he did this with all the children, with all the parents, right? So if he did this again, like if he continued to do this and the same manner with more parents, for example, there's no drug use and he's saying there is a drug use. When they're saying, and then those people can get together and file a class action lawsuit. That's Mr. Davis's information to us on the show. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure, but you can. But again, it has to be the same thing, Trent, Nancy. That's all. I just needed to make sure you guys understand that. Okay, so if you guys can collect people in your county that has same issue, meaning the same exact thing, then yes, you can do a class action lawsuit. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry, Auntie Barbara, but I had to say that.
Oh, it was Dr. Fowler that was talking.
I mean, oh my God, Dr. Fowler, yes. You and her, I swear. Oh my God, that just goes to show you age is not nothing but a number, okay? Because I forget all the time. I'm sorry, both of you, but you guys love each other, so it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay.
But actually, to tell you the truth, I really enjoy being the oldest person on the scene. I'm rocking that out everywhere I go now.
You're not the oldest person, Dr. Fowler. I'm the oldest person.
Look at all of you. Get out.
I'm the oldest person. I'm in my mid-50s. I'm the oldest person.
Yeah, so you're not.
I am.
No.
Darren is like a little.
I'm almost
has
your age,
bracket.
Miss G.
And then Deidre is like probably in her
I just look damn good. That's all.
mid-20s or And then,
Mid-20s. I'll be the big 4-0 in a month.
oh my God, Deidre. Okay, so she's a big 4-0, and then Marcos is what, 30? Marcos? You're 33,
31.
31, yeah. And then Auntie Barb is what, 40, Auntie Barb?
I'll be 46 this year.
Okay,
Babe in
46.
arms. Babe in
Yeah.
arms, you guys. Yeah, I'm
So we're
65.
the old crowd on the top, and then the young crowds are on the bottom.
It's true.
The senior citizens are on the top. Bottom is
They're sitting down because the walkers are next to them, guys. Don't let them fool you.
Hey now.
oh my God.
Well, the way
Listen,
I
I'm gonna
always
have an
do this,
investigation from the adult CPS people calling now because I just said that.
You know what? I didn't even know they had an adult CPS until my friend told me that somebody called for her father. He has Alzheimer's and she was taking care of him, and her brother's wife called and reported her.
What does the C stand for? Children still?
It's APS.
No,
It's
for
Adult
senior
Protective
citizens.
Services.
oh,
It's
Social
just,
workers.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
yeah.
senior citizens.
There's
Yeah,
no
because
excuse for elder abuse.
but she's not abusing
That's
her
their
father.
slogan.
Here. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but again, they're doing it for money. Family members can actually screw you because they're benefiting from that money.
Wait, so they
Well, they
can
take
take
their
like
houses.
the
That's what they
elders
do to
away
them.
from
They take
family
their homes
members
and
in the
everything.
same situation?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
The
as
same
soon
thing.
as, at
Same
least here,
exact
as
thing.
soon as a senior citizen checks into a facility to live there, they don't ask about them. The first thing they do is ask about their property. Because then
No,
they,
but like if a family member was taking care of an elder, like their mom, and that somebody reported them for abuse,
Yes,
they can come
correct.
in and remove their mom that they're taking care of.
Yes.
begin
Oh,
there.
What they
And
would do
wow.
with that is they do more criminal
get to
charges.
seize the
Throughout.
property. As soon as the person is no longer able to inhabit their own home, the facility gets the deed.
Mm-hmm.
They can go after the deed to the property.
Yep. They
That's
get
one
Wow.
of the
Crazy.
first things that you have to do when you're a senior citizen and you sign up for services is you have to produce the deed to your home.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal, and you can actually go to prison if you're abusing an elder.
Mm-hmm.
Not those
There's jail
guys.
time
They're not
for
going
this.
to prison.
Well, guess
No one's
what?
doing anything.
One more thing, guys. I know you're short on time, but there's a lawyer here whose name I can't mention. I've spoken to her a couple of times. The laws are beginning to change here, which means that there's a stream of money for elder abuse that senior citizens like myself who've had their grandchildren taken away, it's a form of elder abuse. And there's now beginning to be a little bit more litigation. It's gaining more momentum
So,
around that. Yes. Now, her
Good.
charge was exorbitant when I spoke with her before, but who knows? Because there can't be a lot of case law yet.
well,
But
so
it
along
is a
those same
thing.
lines, I watched this thing with the AD the other day, the ADA, the disabilities, the whatever, the Disabilities Act people. They said that they are now, if you are part of CPS, removing that child from your home, you are now considered disabled because one or more of your bodily functions are going to be incapacitated because of the trauma that you've faced. So you are eligible for American with Disabilities representations and things along those lines. It's actually I'll tell you right now, because you are mentally incapacitated. Once they take your child, it's just like you getting your kid kidnapped. The same thing, like the trauma that you have faced. It's let me see right here. I have it right here.
So that's considered a disability?
Because
Yeah,
of the
because
trauma you
it's
experienced.
incapacitated. You can't work, you can't function, because you're child, like I guarantee you talk to most of these parents, and I know I can vouch for myself. I'm thankful that I did well younger on in my life because there's just no way I could go working full time at some other place, wondering what I'm going to do next or how I'm going to do this for my daughter or just thinking about her. I wouldn't be a quality, someone to go working for someone full time. My mind goes every hour of every day thinking about my child, like how can I go and give someone else quality work? Like you don't get sleep all night, all hours, like you're
So
up all hours
what
night
I'm
trying to
asking you
figure out a way.
is you can file for disability then is what I'm asking you then?
Yeah, that's what they were saying. It's under the 42-1203, 42-12-203B or something, I believe.
It is incapacitating. You're not
It's just like
yourself.
that. It's just like people aren't getting this either, is that they're also covering people that are, and I know Miss G isn't a big thing to you, but it's very important because these doctors and these people did create this opiate epidemic. So we have to remember that when we talk about these things. So now the American with Disabilities are also representing people that are opiate addicts, but they are clean. Like you can't be an active opiate addict. But if you are a clean opiate addict, then you can contact your ADA, and they will help you out also. So that's another good thing because the CPS people, 53% of the cases in the state of Maine are based on drugs. Drugs are easy for them. They don't have to prove shit. They don't have to prove a damn thing. All they have to do is say it, and they can come in. You know, your kid's in imminent danger. You're gone. You know, they know that they've got you. Think about it. 53% of the kids in the state of Maine are due to drugs, but yet we have legal pot here. So go figure, right? Like that's because, you know what I mean? Like that.
Wait a minute.
Just how does that
There's
make any
something
sense?
about
But even
this,
the double dipping.
Darren. Something about what he just mentioned. You know how Darren, he mentioned marijuana is legal, right? In the states of California, for example. So if marijuana is legal in the state of California, right? Why are they taking children because the father or the mother smoked weed outside?
Right.
That's what I don't understand. That part I don't get because we have cases where the father is sitting outside with his wife and they're just having whatever, whatever they do with marijuana, and then they're just sitting there. And the children were not home. The children were at, grandma for vacation. Grandma lives in Florida. They wanted the children to go to Epcot Center. Grandma said, bring them over for 1 week. I'll take them to Epcot Center, right? So the family did that. And then they're like relaxing outside their patio, blah, blah, blah. Then the neighbor called the police, said they're doing drugs. Now, they didn't tell the police what type of drugs. So the police
That's the key, I think. Yeah, that's the key right there.
Right.
Is they just said they're
Or
doing
was-
drugs,
Right. Or was one of them on probation? Because from what I understand here in California, if you're on probation, you can't have marijuana or alcohol.
No,
So if
they were
one of
not
them
on
was
probation.
Okay.
No, they were not on probation. They were both actually they were both in the medical field.
Mm.
Yeah, a stupid frivolous call, and you're up in a bad situation for these great people.
Yeah, but that wasn't. These not like they were drug addicts. They were not
right
smoking marijuana like every single day, 24/7, like other celebrities do. Walk with it in their mouth. I'm just saying that was just a couple of time thing, not all the time. So he said it was just me and my wife and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, the police got involved, came, asked them if they have children. They innocently said yes. They're vacationing with, grandma in Florida. And then social worker got involved. Children came back, and the kids were removed from them. I'm just giving you an example.
The kids were not even at home at the time.
Correct.
The parents were smoking weed.
Correct.
And I this question last week
ridiculous.
too.
That's in California.
In California, especially, that's ridiculous. I mean, look again, like you said, look at all these celebrities who are smoking weed, and their kids are at home.
Yeah, but remember, Miss G said that the person that made that call said just drugs. They didn't necessarily say it was weed.
But they have to do drug testing, though. I mean, like, for example, hair follicle test. Why didn't they do a hair follicle test?
Exactly. No, yeah, that's what I mean.
In California,
that's so
remember though, in
intrusive into your
California,
constitutionality.
it's
That's a constitutional issue for sure.
Follicles.
Hair follicle tests.
You guys are talking over each other, Darren.
Yeah, but I know, but the hair follicle test is so constitutionally violation. It's ridiculous.
Yes, and Mr. Davis has said this before because kind of applied with something around here. That at least in California, according to the California State Constitution, you cannot be ordered to do a hair follicle test because certain drugs don't process through the hair. Or, I mean, I have all this hair. If I'm out there, my neighbor is smoking weed, and I have to go tomorrow for a hair follicle test, what's going to happen?
You can come into contact with anything nowadays.
That's one of the things that CPS does. Like the judge will say, okay, you want visitations, you have to do a drug test and, blah, 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 whatever you've got to do. Okay, the judge is just saying, drug test, because the only thing she can order is a urine test. So she just says drug test. Well, then you go to CPS and CPS says, nope, I've got you scheduled for a hair follicle test. So
I don't know how it is in
CPS,
California.
it's kind of skirting the law there, because then they're telling the parents, oh no, you can't see your kid if you don't do this hair follicle test, when the court only orders a urine test. But
Right,
these
and then, like,
parents
in
don't
some
know
of
any better.
the
They don't know that
policies,
they have
for
the right
instance,
to
up here,
deny that, and they go do it.
Because Mr. Davis says the court-appointed
but then the
attorney needs
policy
to
will say that
object
they
to
can't use those
the
results
follicle.
Well,
to
but
make
that gets
decisions.
us back to how these court-appointed attorneys, most of them are either criminal defense or family law attorneys. They don't understand when the judge orders, like if you're a criminal defense attorney and your client has a probation officer, right? And the judge says you have to do a drug test. What's the probation officer going to do? They're going to make you go pee in a cup. So a lot of criminal defense attorneys don't get that when a CPS judge says drug test, and you go to CPS, they assume you're going to go do the same thing you do at a probation officer. No, because those social workers then tell you, go take a hair follicle test or you're not going to see your kids. And criminal defense attorney, and that's like us getting the word out about stuff like this. I mean, there's some really good criminal defense attorneys who are, court appointed, and God bless them. They try their hardest, but they don't understand CPS. It is such a bizarre system. So we need to get the word out to these lawyers too. It's not the same. When the court says drug test, probation officer says, here's your cup. CPS worker says, go get your hair chopped off. And they don't see the difference. And that's why even a good criminal defense attorney is not necessarily going to understand that, because they're not familiar with the CPS system.
No, they're not. You're absolutely
So
correct.
that's why
It's very hard.
I tell everybody I know of now, in California, you cannot be ordered to do a hair follicle test.
Nope.
Let your lawyer know.
But Mr. Davis
Yeah, you
said
can't
this.
hear me
He
either.
said they're not 100% accurate. I don't
Right.
know about the hair follicle test, but he was talking about the urine test. It's
Right.
not 100% accurate though.
And you do have the right to go back into the court and say, hey,
Reset it, right.
I didn't have this. I had, whatever, there's
Or
different
ask to retest.
things.
Right.
And-
ask for retest.
Right. And what you can do, because I used to work in a lab, I know this, when, like, say you get a dirty test and you've just had, ibuprofen.
False positive, yeah.
It shows up for, I forget what it is, opiates or what. You can go do a blood test and they can check you specifically for ibuprofen and you can prove yourself. You can't do that with a hair follicle test. But you can request the judge give you a blood test to confirm that urine test was wrong.
Oh.
But they cannot order an invasive test.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, that's just so much information. Honestly, you guys, all I'm saying here, I think I've shared this with all of you guys on the show. We need to get as many people as possible all over the states, and we need to protest. You guys are protesting out there. You guys think you shouldn't protest for mothers and fathers who lose rights to their children and grandparents, or aunts like Auntie Barb. Because they're bad parents. You guys are equipped to believe that the system works. You guys out there who's not dealing with a CPS case, you guys are equipped to believe that these people are guilty people automatically, because CPS thinks only bad children, bad parents' children. Not true, because the ones who are being abused, they're still in custody with the abuser until they die. Or their brain is so twisted and brainwashing and abuse and all this, they're afraid to trust. So mental abuse, they leave them in mental abused homes, or they leave them with a physical abused father or mother or aunt or grandmother, whatever. But when people make reports about the actual abuse, social workers come back and says, oh, well, it's unfounded. No, bitch, it's not unfounded. It's not unfounded. You just didn't do your due diligence to really protect that child. But you're going to helpless family and you're accusing them of neglect and abuse, and the child is healthy. Nothing is wrong with the children or the child, but that you want to take the healthy child, break the family because they're easily adopted.
I wish there was a way that every time a parent got their child taken, that we could have a book of Mr. Davis to hand them at the exact same time.
Yep, I wish we could do that, but unfortunately they don't talk to us until after it's too late.
I know.
Yeah,
well,
I know.
like
That's the sad part.
when there's proof that a child is being abused in a foster home, CPS will come out and say, "Oh, that's unfounded. Oh, the marks on the kid. Nah, that's just
That's nothing.
the drugs that are in this kid's system. Oh, they must have picked him up in the backyard." You
Yep.
know, it's totally unfounded
That is so
because
true.
who is ultimately liable if a child in a foster home is being abused?
That is so true. Exactly.
And so
But
that they'll cover up.
right. But then they will take the child for the parent who did nothing, and they go by just unfounded
Hearsay.
allegations.
Yeah.
And there's another thing I forgot to mention to you guys. When the judge is being unfair, to me, it's not even about unfairness. They don't do they don't they come for, oh my god. One of our clients said that and I know this to be true because I looked at the transcripts. The judge told her she has to go to court that day, meaning she was in court. She doesn't have an attorney, so she told the judge, I need a continuance, for an attorney. So the social worker's recommendation was she has to go to court that day after she left court around 4 something to file for a restraining order against her husband or ex who was already in jail, like he's in prison. So she said, well, they told me that minute. And then by the time she left court, went to the other court to get a restraining order, they told her they can't help her because it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost closing. Then the social worker said in court, Your Honor, if she doesn't get the restraining order done today, we're going to go tomorrow to get to take the children from her.
Mm-hmm.
That is so sad. How are you going to give a
They do it on purpose because they know it's the impossible. Yeah.
Why couldn't that judge issue a restraining order? They could all sign a restraining order.
But what I'm trying to tell you, they want to sabotage the.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing.
And she's 22 years old. She's not informed. She's never been in the system. Her parents never been in the system. So she has no idea, and they're taking advantage of her. And they do this with a lot of people. If I did not look at it in the transcripts, and that's why transcripts are important, guys, please, please, if you see that there's some corruption and violation of rights from the judge, please, 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 you have to order the transcripts because that's very important immediately. And don't tell anyone why you're ordering the transcripts. Just order the transcripts. Okay.
Well, and on that note, if you're in CPS court, make sure there's a stenographer there, because apparently they don't have to have them. So the first thing you need to do is request a stenographer before the proceedings go any further.
Correct. Guys, remember that.
Because you have the right to do it. I guess they just don't have to provide it.
But you know why? Because most judges, or maybe all judges, they trash the mother in court. Mm-hmm. You're a loser. How dare you? And they don't even know her. They're just going based on what the social workers are saying. So that's why they don't want anyone to write that shit down, because they don't want anybody to have that against them. Now you guys get it? Yeah. You guys get that, right? They're trying to protect their assets, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to be nice. What I really want to do is their ass from any violation. Exactly. So therefore, guess what? They're going to do what they need to do. So Deidre, you're right. That's a good point to address Mr. Davis today. Hopefully, if we're doing the show tonight, and I do want to address that and see what he thinks about that. Because again, every county is different, but it's still a state law. So in their eyes, so you and I are in California, so maybe we can ask him that today, Barb.
Okay.
Tonight, I mean, yeah, I think that's a good point. But yes, Barbara did make a good point. But you guys, I have to go. Darren, next time, hopefully your computer is working great and no delays tomorrow, God willing. Hopefully you'll be with us throughout the whole show.
We know what that was.
Because
we know what that was.
I miss your dress, your wardrobe. I miss it very much. I haven't seen that today. Actually, he's still dressed, Barb. He's still dressed.
I know this. Yeah, he didn't have time to do that.
It must be really cold over there, Darren. It must be so cold. See, he's freezing, Auntie Barb. See that? He's freezing.
Yes, I would show you my nipples, but I don't have a.
Oh my God!
Oh Lordy!
See, Miss G, just keep your mouth shut.
Darren, tomorrow, make sure your computer works. Auntie Barb, Dr. Fowler, thank you very much for joining us again today. You're awesome. Auntie Barb, I love you, and you're awesome.
Private show later.
Love you, Dr. Fowler. Deidre, thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yes, thank you.
And then
sure you
Darren,
like this on YouTube too. It's very important.
Darren, Darren, just work on your computer, honey. I love you. All right. All right, guys. See you
Yeah.
tomorrow.
God
God
bless
bless.
everyone.
Bye. God bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.